name is Nubra Nelson. I'm the Community Engagement Associate here at the Rep. So I work on all of the post-show conversations that we've been having after every single show. Here's James Phelps. Hello, welcome. Making a dramatic entrance. So this particular talkback is very exciting to us because it really relates to one portion of our new mission, which is to strengthen and celebrate Milwaukee. And here we have 4 community leaders that are very much a wonderful testament to the strength of our community, and for us to bring them up on stage is truly a celebration for us. What we will be discussing is the themes of identity raised in the play and the themes of civil discourse and how we can have better conversations in our community. What we did at Milwaukee Rep to respond to those themes is hold intercultural dinners on Monday nights, and our last one is this coming Monday, where we invited anyone to come. We had a space for 110 people every single night from across Milwaukee, who all came together to have dinner and discuss the themes of identity raised in the play. And each of these individuals also took part in a dinner, so we'll be discussing how that experience as well. So that was kind of our response to the dinner that kind of went really wrong in this play. And we tried to put together a dinner that would have the same diverse dialogue, but in a more positive way. So I'd love it if each of you would introduce yourself and your reactions to the play, your biggest takeaways from the dinner dialogues around the play, whatever you'd like to share that relates to these themes that you had got to discuss so in depth in the intercultural dinners.
Good evening. My name is Muhammad Isa Sadlon. Some of you know me as Christopher Goldsmith. I was the head of the Milwaukee Art Museum for many years. And when somebody is introduced to me now as Muhammad, all of a sudden the identity issue comes over. Who are you? We think we know who you are, and you're something else. And tonight in the play, we see this interplay of identity, of stereotype, how people try to sort it out, how people make assumptions, and how we're usually wrong in those assumptions, and then everything comes crashing down. So it's fraught with danger, and in terms of our own community, I think many of the problems that we encounter are when we make assumptions about people, we act upon them, and then we find out they're not accurate, and then how do we backpedal, and how do we deal with those things?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joanne Williams, and I wear a lot of different hats right now. I'm retired from Fox 6, but I call myself semi-retired because now I work at Milwaukee Public Television, and I host Black Nouveau every Wednesday night at 6:30 on Channel 36. And thank you. Oh, viewer, okay. And I've moved into a new world of independent filmmaking. So I am now a filmmaker, and I'm working on a film that deals with race relations between a high school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and a high school in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. And I'll tell you more about that later if you want to ask, because it takes a little explanation. But I'm working on this film, and I hope you'll be able to see it in 2018. I saw the play last week and participated in one of the Talkback dinners. And it was a very interesting experience to participate in the dinners. I met people. You sit at a table with people you don't know. So you have to introduce yourself and find out a little bit about each other as you go through the meal. And the questions that were raised were so pointed that you probably had people saying things to these strangers that they never said to anybody before. So it was a very interesting conversation about identity and about race and about assumptions and about stereotypes and about how people define themselves and how we define each other. So I hope we'll be able to talk about that a little bit tonight. And I will pose a question to you right off the bat. Why was the play called Disgrace? And who was disgraced?
Good evening. My name is Onur, which means honor. It's a French word. And from Turkey. I am the volunteer executive director of Niagara Foundation of Milwaukee office, which is an organization promotes intercultural and interfaith dialogue. But professionally, I am a professor at Medical College of Wisconsin. So I have different hats, as you see. So I have always appreciated any opportunities which brings people together and give them chance to the dialogue, to exchange ideas, to understand each other, to learn from each other, and eventually to respect each other. So that was one of the main takeaway points from those intercultural dinners. I have attended many dinners like dialogue dinners before with my organization, with interfaith dialogue organizations, and I always appreciated that. And there was I attended dinner last Monday, I think, yeah, last Monday, and the group was really interesting, and there were people representing different identities, and we had really nice discussion. Not necessarily people are agreeing with each other, but they are learning from each other and really appreciating each other. But one thing was interesting came out from the group as a consensus was from this play, the level of disturbing religious illiteracy presented by the author of the play, especially about Asan, and how that might impact the people, especially the Muslims in the community, in a negative way. So there was such discussions with some examples, and that was one of the main takeaways.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Phelps from JCP Construction. Along with that, running that company, also work on, volunteer on various boards as well throughout the community. Kind of touching back on the play itself, I thought it was a pretty good play overall as far as kind of showcasing or spotlighting a lot of, it's like a crucible is the way I look at it, whereas you had a lot of different issues that were kind of condensed down into a very short period of time. Then you add alcohol to that. That's what you get. So it pushed a lot of buttons that kind of essentially accelerated what the conversation will be about. A little bit of sensationalism in that. I think a couple of extremes, but at the same time, it made for good dialogue. So this is the second time I've seen the play. I did the Talkback after the first one, and then also did the dinner as well as, so it's the third time for a Talkback of sorts. But what I like about it is just kind of being able to have the opportunity of being able to talk with people about it and kind of get their ideas about it, and honestly sometimes inserting myself into conversations where they may not have the perspective of someone of color, to be honest. So I guess that's really it for this time around.
Yeah. Each of you do a lot of work within Milwaukee and deal with a lot of different communities within Milwaukee. I was wondering what your thoughts are about how identity plays a role in the sociopolitics of our city. Clearly we see like kind of a microcosm of identities erupting and conflicting in the play. Do you see that in Milwaukee? How do you feel as though identity plays a role in what our community is? And what do you each in your work kind of deal with in regards to identity in our city?
I can take it first as I have the mic. I think there's different layers to identity. It means different things to different people. If we're talking about religious identity, are we talking about Milwaukee identity? Are we talking about essentially who has the power base in identity versus those who may not? And how you reconcile all those? So I think it plays a large part, I guess I would say that first and foremost. And I think what the main character in the play, what he struggled with is trying to reconcile making everyone happy, including himself, and not necessarily having a foundation, whereas he understood what his identity was, that he can then project that to others that he didn't interact with.
I think there are different levels in that question, I have been in Milwaukee for 3 years or 4 years. Yes, I mean, I have heard about Milwaukee, about how segregated and everything, but when I came to the city, I also have seen many organizations really doing great jobs, great works, and bringing people together, like United Way of Greater Milwaukee, helping people in the society. Or there was one initiative called Milwaukee Mosaic, bringing people from different background and ethnicity or identity together, and to really make a consensus, or to have them to really understand each other. So I think we need to work harder and harder, given the, maybe today's political environment too. And I think the communities, different communities in the city really need to understand each other and visit each other more.
One of the things that came up in our conversation Monday night at the dinner Monday night, and I saw you there Monday night, was I raised the question about your identity. When you go out of Wisconsin, when you travel to someplace or other, and people say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm from Cleveland. You say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm from, what do you say? You say you're from Milwaukee, right? Or Wisconsin. But when you're here and someone comes up to you and say, hi, I'm Joanne Williams, I'm from Milwaukee. What do you say? You say, hi, I'm so-and-so from Brookfield, or from Shorewood, or from Wauwatosa, or from Whitefish Bay. Why don't you say, I'm from Milwaukee, or I'm from a suburb of Milwaukee? Why is it that we don't want to identify ourselves as Milwaukeeans to each other? When you talk to people outside of this community and they ask you about Milwaukee, do you stick up for Milwaukee? Or do you say, well, I'm really from the suburbs, so I don't know what goes on there. So I think we have to think of our identity in a larger context. You may live in a suburb, that's fine, but that doesn't mean you are isolated from Milwaukee. We are all part of Milwaukee in one way or the other. And until we all say, yes, I'm part of it, and I will step up and join in the conversations, we're still going to have divides.
Professionally, over the past 15 years, I've served for 5 years as the head of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. It's the largest Islamic organization in Wisconsin, one of the largest in the Midwest. I'm the chief executive officer. I'm the only person who looks like me, who's active there. And looking at the identity of our community, it's an identity in transition, because most of the Muslims in Milwaukee came in the 70s, in the 80s. People came as medical doctors, came as business people, some came as refugees. And everybody, I think, initially thought that this was an interim step. They'd make some money and go back home. And of course, the kids got born here, they became Milwaukeeans, they became Americans, and there was no going back home. And the parents' dream of doing something else was conflicting with the children's reality that this is their home. But the children, this is their home, but they don't look like most of the people in here. Most of them are brown or black. Other people look at them as something other than people who belong here. They're from someplace else, even though their self-identity is a Milwaukeean, somebody who lived in America, who grown up in America, but not treated like that. Right now, I'm the chairman of our Central City Mosque. Again, I am the only person who looks like this. Half of our community is African American, the other half is Africans from the diaspora. And for them, it's not even an issue of, let's say, religious identity. It's really, do I belong here? Am I going to survive here? Am I going to get a job here? My husband's in jail. My child is in jail. Somebody just got killed in the neighborhood. There's an identity based on, like, we're at war. So it's people are hunkering down, almost not paying much attention to what's happened in the broader community, because life every single day is so difficult. It's such a challenge that the identity becomes so narrow. It's almost your own group, your own survival, and it can't even transcend and get to something like this. The Muslim community in general has been pretty, the reaction to this play has not been favorable, and you can imagine why. And it's because Muslims are not shown as good characters. And of course that is, none of the other characters necessarily, they're also very flawed people. But the Muslims are so sensitive because in the press, in the society, we're being vilified, we're being demonized. So when there's yet another occasion where people are not showing at their best, this makes people on edge. From my point of view, one who's gone to the theater here since I was like this, the fact that the Muslims now are in a play, it's a point of action, is a wonderful thing. To me, it's kind of coming into the mainstream society where we can be critiqued, be evaluated, where people can weigh what the values are. You know, we're on somebody's radar screen, often in a bad sense, but sometimes in a good sense. So I think in that way, it's a sense of arrival for our community, but there's a lot of mixed feelings about it.
Well, I think this is a good time to open it up to questions from the audience, if anyone has one. Yeah, one in the very back.
You know, ethnocentrism, thinking that your group is better, allows you to blame others. And I saw a lot of that where the Emir was blamed, and the wife did not take responsibility for her heinous act, in my opinion. And, so the play, but I also like, in terms of false assumptions, to blame Muslims for 9/11, people might want to look into that white people might have done it.
She posed a comment about ethnocentrism, blame throwing in the play. Does anybody want to comment on that, or should we? Does it say what it needs to say?
I understand what you're saying, and part of it did happen in the play. I think whenever we think about the other, and if you look around this room, everybody doesn't look the same. There are others all over the place. But does that mean that the other is bad? You just don't know them. I showed this to Nabra when I was here Monday night, that I found this book that's being, if I can reach it, that's being discussed at a local church, and I haven't been to the discussion yet. It's called Waking Up White. And it's a book written by a white woman who's questioning her identity and the identity she was raised with and the society in which she was brought up. And she's making some discoveries that she never thought she would have made. So, in the play, Amir wanted to be successful, and he wanted to get that promotion, and when he didn't get it, he was very frustrated and angry and drunk. But that's understandable, because I think it showed that he had hidden himself from himself. And when he realized he was considered by the people around him as the other, he got mad.
So, in addition to your comment, I'm gonna share one of my experience. It was a very interesting experience, and which clearly showed to me how people react upon their perceived identity of yourself, and it may change or it may shift very quickly. And a few years ago, I was in job market looking for professor position, and I have had several interviews, and I have been to one of the nice university and had my interview, and coming back to the airport, it was a long drive, and there was a cab driver, which was a really nice guy, like a very nice southern accent, and he even asked me to sit front to have a long conversation. And he understood I am a professor candidate, and at that point, my identity is a PhD, very educated, a professor, and he really praised me. He said, "You are gonna teach our kids. You are gonna contribute to our society. You are gonna produce engineers and everything. And he even told me about their Southern baptism, the issues going on with the pastors over there, Pastor X, Pastor Y, his son, going to Costa Rica to convert Catholics to the Christianity, and other stuff, And there was a nice conversation, and at some point, he asked me, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Turkey." And he asked the religion of the country. And he's driving again, and I said, "Majority of Turkey is Muslim, and I'm a Muslim too." And the next question is, this is the shift. Now my Muslim identity kicks in. "Hey man, why are you trying to kill us?" Then another 30 minutes, another nice discussion. But it was a nice discussion. At the end of the trip, he told me, "Hey, I learned a lot from you. And I didn't know anything about Islam before, just whatever I heard from media or those type of things." He apologized, and he said, he was thankful to me. So again, the sources people get or people reach the information really sometimes shape others' identity for themselves. But when you meet with the people and when you understand, when you learn from them, then you reach the right information.
Go ahead. I was just going to open it up to more questions, but if you have a comment.
No, I'll wait.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we actually only have time for one more question or a few more comments from the panelists. So, yes.
No, I think that one of the great lessons of disgrace, and it's been taught many other times, but this really does a very good job of teaching it or reminding us of all of it for our time, is what Annette Funicello, in her days in the Mickey Mouse Club, once sang to us and reminded us in one of her songs back in the 1950s. "All you gals and guys, if you want to be wise, don't jump to conclusions." And of course, all the characters, except perhaps for the nephew, do in this play with horrifying consequences. Rather than sit back and say, "Wait a minute, could you clarify that? What makes you say that?" And of course, the alcohol, Amir's alcohol wasn't helping. And it just shows how it can all snowball in the space of a dramatic time of a few weeks or months, and then 1 hour and 25 minutes on stage. This goes on, unfortunately, more often with real relationships than most of us ever care to acknowledge.
Yeah, he was commenting on jumping to conclusions and how much of it has an impact on this play and in each of our lives. There's a question up here, yes.
You had said that this play is not well received by the Muslim community, and I guess my question is, so in your opinion, are you glad though that this piece of art exists because it generates discussion, or does it perpetuate stereotypes that you wish would be put to bed once and for all?
She asked whether this play, in regards to its portrayal of stereotypes, is it worse to have these stereotypes perpetuated or to have a play like this put on so that we can generate discussion?
I think whether this play exists or not, the stereotypes are out there. People manipulate them. I think this play gives the chance to confront them, talk about it. So I think it's a good thing. I'm very happy that they're up to this.
Yeah,
I
more.
may be saying something very simplistic about the Muslim faith, but what bothers me is the misinformation. Karen Armstrong, is a wonderful, wonderful writer who tries to explain it the right way, but I've educated friends who say, do you see in the Quran? If we can't convert them by ordinary means, we will convert by the sword. I think there's such, you talked about disinformation or ill information. So who's the arbiter of that? Who's the arbiter who disseminates this information? And this information now is being disseminated among other informations nationally and putting us at a huge confrontational level. So how do you combat that when you talk about, and I'm not just even saying about the Muslim faith, but it comes across. And so people jump to conclusions. I think that is the point.
I think the simple answer for all of you as you look at the Muslim faith is two things. For us as Muslims who are, let's say, centrist, people, the 95% of the people who practice, there's no issues, very happy with our religion. We look at our religion in its totality, based on two things. First and foremost, we look at the Quran in its entirety, not just one phrase of the Quran, not just one sound bite. Because you can take a sound bite out of the Bible and, oh my gosh, you get crazy. And this is what the Islamophobes do. They take sound bites, they put it out there, they don't give context, they don't talk into the background about why things work. So understanding Quran in its entirety, then looking as the Quran was applied by the Prophet Muhammad in his life. What kind of life did he have? And no one in human history at that period has had more documentation about their life. And there's lots of wonderful things like Karen Armstrong's books about the Prophet Muhammad that can show you exactly how the Prophet lived his entire life. So then when you see this information, the things that say, wow, these people believe this, they're doing that, look to the Prophet's life. How did he live? This is how we aspire to live. Understand the Quran in its entirety. This is how most Muslims understand it.
You ask a question that people often ask about media. And the answer is, and you want somebody to tell you, the best way to think about this. The answer is, the person who has to help you understand all this is you. And if you are in a conversation with somebody and they are taking a broad point of view, all Muslims are bad, you don't just nod and say, you challenge them and say, how do you know that? And if they can't come up with any strong evidence, then say to them, well, go and get some more information. Educate yourself. No matter what you see in the media, that's only a small slice of the whole picture. What you see on television, on the nightly news, or what you even read online is still only a small slice of the whole picture. So for you tonight, and you're all thinking people because you came to this play, but for you tonight, when you go home and think about the different people in your life and the different people that you encounter, if you have a question about something they believe or something they did, don't say, well, that's what they do. Stop yourself and say, that's an assumption. I've jumped to a conclusion. I need to find out more. And I tell people when they consume media, don't take only the media with which you agree. Find out more. I just told my friends on Facebook that I have subscribed, I've friended the Breitbart News Service because I want to hear what they say. I don't want it filtered by somebody else. I want to hear what they say. I don't know if they're friending me, but or if they're friending the New York Times, or if they're friending some other media. But I was told once, as a journalist, read something every day written by somebody with whom you disagree. That way, you can see what's happening out there in other people's minds. And when you talk to people and they come up with an assumption, don't just accept it, challenge it. It's up to you.
I think that's a great way to end our talk back.